welcome everybody to this week's episode of The Boost. My name's Tegan. I am the Learning Manager here at the Black United Representation Network. And this week we are joined by no other than CJ Lloyd Webley, who is producer, playwright, entrepreneur, and founder of the Black Pounds Project, CIC. So, hello, CJ. Thank you so much for joining us. We do really appreciate it. We met very briefly at a was it a social enterprise? Yeah. And for me, what stood out was just your honesty and your brilliance. So we've connected on LinkedIn since, and I love what you post. I love what you're doing. So it felt only right to see if you would join us today. So we're going to kick off just to try and find out a little bit more about you. Where did it all start? So tell us about CJ, the early years.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for this is an amazing opportunity, and I feel very honoured and humbled to have been brought here to speak to you all. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a council estate in Birmingham called Lyndhurst, and there was a lot of exposure to crime where I lived, but I was very much the kind of person that could make friends with anyone. So my family, my parents, they steered me and my brother. I've got an older brother called Alex. They steered us very much away from all of that. However, we were very much integrated in the culture of where we grew up. You know, we had lots of friends in the area. We were all doing various different things, but we just never, and thankfully, due to good parenting, we never really got involved in any of that. And, from an early age, we were always kind of channeled into whether it be sports, whether it be going to the local church or whatever it was, just to keep us around positivity. And I think that's just something, I probably didn't understand it at the time. I didn't really understand why I wasn't allowed to play outside at 8 o'clock when all my friends are out there or whatnot. So, there's actually a road that we weren't allowed to actually cross because my parents always wanted to see us out the window. And if we crossed the road, they couldn't see us. So a couple of times where, did cross the road, but weren't really supposed to. All our friends had to come to us. So that's kind of my childhood, I guess. And I wasn't necessarily a loud child. I wasn't particularly actually it's ironic. I didn't this is what my brother and my mum and dad say, that I didn't particularly talk that much as a child, but I was always like drawing or scribbling or writing stuff. So anyway, when I was in primary school, I was a little bit of a class clown, but I think because I had a cute face or whatever, I never got in too much trouble when I did stuff. But I remember, I think where it all kick-started was when I was in, I think it was year 5 or 6, and there was a class assembly, and it was about World War II, and I think everyone in the school had to do an assembly. Every class in the school had to do an assembly. And I just felt like, I was sitting and watching the other assemblies, and I just thought, these assemblies are so much better than ours. Like, I feel like ours is really boring and everybody else's is really fun and, exciting. So anyway, we go up and we're doing this World War II play, or I don't think it was a play actually, it was just a presentation. And at the end of it, I just felt like ours was boring. So I just shouted, "Does anyone like Michael Jackson up in here?" And then I just started moonwalking up and down the front of the school. And I just remember my teacher just kind of being in the corner, just like looking at the other teachers, like, I don't know what you're doing. That's not what we had planned. And anyway, I was like, the school where all the kids were laughing, they were all, having fun or whatnot. And basically, when I got back to the classroom, I thought it was okay, but the teacher basically laid into me and she said, you can't be just doing what you want to do in front of the school. That was not what we'd planned. It's not all about you and whatever. And I thought, oh no, here we go. I'm going to get a call home and I'm going to get in trouble. But what my teacher did was quite interesting. She didn't actually call home. because the next day, or I think it was the day after, they were doing Oliver Twist, and she was like, okay, I can probably see that he's got a bit of energy and he wants to perform, so I'm going to cast him in that. And wasn't a main role or anything like that, but I was a comedy role as my head teacher, and I just did some funny stuff. And I think from there, I think I was a bit of a natural in terms of the performance side of things. And I'd always really, like I said, I wasn't necessarily that vocal as a child, but I was definitely always quite good at English and the written language. So I think that's where it all started, really. And I think had she not cast me in that performance, that school play, really I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do anything like that. So from then, I think I just, my parents saw it and they were like, okay, I think he's got a little bit of a knack for that. So they started trying to push me into different things. I did Stagecoach when I was a bit younger, did that for a little bit. And then when I got to secondary school, I got into National Youth Theatre and Youth Music Theatre. And then from there, literally just continued in the arts. And I ultimately found playwriting when I was in when I was in uni, first year of uni. I did an undergrad degree in theatre and performance at the University of Warwick. And at that point, it was very much about performance. I hadn't written any plays or anything like that. Really, I'd probably written a few short stories or whatnot, but hadn't written a play by that point. And when I was in my first year of uni, I was auditioning for things, and to my surprise, I wasn't really getting casted in things. I was like, a bit disheartened by that. And then I started to realize, well, these, the stories that are being told are not really stories for people like that. I feel they're not really stories for people that look like me or sound like me. So that's when I started thinking, you know what, I'm going to sit in the library. And I just remember I was sitting there and I just said, I'm just going to write a play. And then I decided, I'm going to put this play on. And really, I wrote it because I wanted to be in it. But then I realized the response when I'd written it, and there were so many people, who looked like me and were from different diverse communities that wanted to be involved in a production that spoke to them. And then from that point, it just changed my ethos. I still enjoy performing, but it's not really my main focal point, because I think it's really important to create opportunities for myself and others. And just bringing it back to recently, I had a play called Constructed on at the Birmingham Rep, and that was a play about a company of 10 all black male theatre company, 10 young black men who were working on a construction site, which is something you don't really see at all. And also, I just started to think to myself, well, if I was just focusing on my own kind of desire to want to be on stage, and not create the stories, that's 10 opportunities I've now created for younger actors who want to go on and pursue this. So I think when you are in roles where you can make a little bit more of when you're in a writing and producerial role and you're kind of behind the scenes a little bit, you can have a bit more control and say over what is actually being produced, and I've worked really hard to get that platform, and I've worked really hard on my craft to make sure I understand story and narrative, because a lot of times people want to write about really deep and meaningful themes, but they don't think about the story and the characters, which is what people actually want to know more about. So yeah, that's a little bit about the journey.
That's fascinating. And have you ever gone back to that teacher and spoke to her about igniting that passion of yours?
No, I'd love to find her. I actually was speaking to, I was doing a BBC interview, radio interview, and they asked me, say a similar question, where did the inspiration come from? And I always tell that story, but her name is Lauren Wharton, Miss Wharton. So I'm still trying to find her. I don't know if she's still in teaching, but she might not even be in this region anymore. I don't know, but no. So I think I'll find her eventually. I found some other teachers, but yeah, I'll have to see where she is.
Right. Wow. It is really fascinating, especially, where you are today. But I guess for me, you touched very briefly there on finding it disheartening that there weren't people that looked like you, or the stories weren't weren't aimed at people who looked like you. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that felt at the time? I know you used it in a really positive way by kind of rewriting and doing things that are more aligned, but how did it make you feel? Kind of what process did you go through to overcome that kind of mental challenge?
So it had never really, I'd never really felt it was a barrier until I got to uni, because like I say, I was in National Youth Theatre and Youth Music Theatre, and I was pretty much the only black person, black male in those companies. There were a few black females, and even when I was on my degree, I think I was the first black boy to do a theatre degree at Warwick. So that in itself is a big thing. And but when I got to uni, I understood that my race was actually a barrier. I started to see that the way people were speaking in the plays and things like that, and the way they looked, it just, every single show that I was seeing just didn't have anyone who looked like me, or from any other different ethnic community. So I started to recognize that there's a deeper issue in terms of the stories that are being told, and it's not saying they're bad stories, it's just saying that it could even be because a director has a lot of say in who gets cast and so on and so forth. So it's also the backstage roles, so people like directors and producers who are not seeing those stories outside of their own lens. So they can't see a Shakespeare play being done by a ethnic cast. They just haven't seen it, so they just won't. They feel like it's taking a risk or a gamble if they were to do something like that, as opposed to it being, well, there's no reason why this person couldn't play that role. So just because you're not familiar with it or you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it can't happen. And I think there was a lot of that. And I think we are definitely entering into a different place now where people have had to open their eyes to it, and they are now making shifts towards being more inclusive. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and I think in order for it to really change, we need more representation in those more senior roles, but also the roles behind the scenes. And for me, as much as I enjoy writing and producing work, part of what I do is try to encourage young writers who look like me to pick up the pen. I think there's a lot of difficulty with getting young black boys to pick up a pen and write. I think that's because of the way it's taught in school, or they haven't seen what being a writer can do for you, or how it's beneficial. And even if it's not about putting a play on a stage, it's about actually when you pick up the pen and you write your own story, that is an accomplishment within itself. And I'm really, I was with my group yesterday, my theatre company at the Birmingham Rep, and that's comprised of young Black and African Caribbean men. So I asked them yesterday, I said, what's your perspective of writing a play? Because they were saying to me how brilliant constructed was. And for me, it's, I've worked on the craft, so I understand story, I understand what's funny, I understand timing and things like that. But I believe that there's potential for everyone if they just want to work at it. But I think there is a stigma, there's a stigma that they maybe don't think their story's good enough, or they don't think that, your first draft is never supposed to be good. It's just supposed to have a little bit of potential. Is there a bit of humor? Is there a bit of fun in there? But do we care about these characters? And I think really I'm passionate about getting more representation on stage, but also in those backstage and senior roles. I think we just need more representation. We need more stories. I believe everybody has a story to tell, and I'd love to hear more. So
Thank you, brilliant. So you mentioned that you work with a group. What is that, something separate to the Black Browns project, and is that just purely around arts?
Yeah, so it's interesting that I'll come at it from two angles. So during the the pandemic, when George Floyd was murdered, I actually got a role to support the mental health of young Black men within the arts. So the company I run is called Lightpost Theatre Company, and it's all about supporting the mental health of young Black men through the arts, through performance. So it's not only a safe space for them to come to and share any of their concerns or ambition as well. It's also an opportunity for them to be on stage and have that creative outlet. But there are different strands to the work. You've got young guys who come who just want, you know, time and space away from whatever's going on outside and just to have some fun. And there's other guys who are striving to be professional actors. So I've really had to develop a infrastructure that can cater for both. So when you saw the play constructed, those are the guys who really want to pursue acting, and they've done some work before, but of course the main priority of the company is to support them as well in what they're doing and their mental health. So that's what I do. That's the role I have at the Birmingham Rep. And then I'm actually running a project simultaneously with Black Pounds Project, which I'll go on to talk about in a minute, which is about helping creatives to develop entrepreneurial skills in terms of creating flexible roles for themselves, whether that's in graphic design or marketing or whatever it is, because a lot of the opportunities for actors will require them to be available. And if they are going into full-time employment, they will find it very difficult to pursue what they want to pursue. So again, a lot of them have come and said, you know, they're really struggling because they believe their purpose for being on this planet is to perform, is to be on stage, is to be in front of those lights, but they're working jobs that don't, you know, they're having to book weeks off and they're not able to do it. So again, that's really difficult to navigate at times for them. So it's really, that's how Black Pounds Project ties into that work, because we're helping them develop those entrepreneurial skills to be able to generate income whilst they are on their tours or whatever it is that they're doing. So of course it's been a difficult time for the arts as it is. So it was really, really good time for us really to help them set things up so that as and when things do get a bit more open, they have things already in the pipeline. So speaking about Black Pounds Project, the reason that came about was because, you know, from early childhood really, I've had family, friends saying that, you know, they really want to support Black business owners, but they don't feel like they are professional or they're not reliable or whatever it is. But this is just a stigma that I've heard quite a lot. And I think it wasn't really until George Floyd was murdered that I started to question, well, why is that? There must be a reason why that is. It can't just be that Black businesses are unprofessional, because I know that's not the case. I think of every business, you know, every business owner has things that they can improve on. Even, you know, really successful entrepreneurs from different communities, they have things that they can improve on. So we can't just carry this stigma about all Black business owners because of a negative experience you might have had with one. So that always resonated with me. But I just thought, because of the type of person I am, if I feel like there's an issue, then I want to do something, you know, I want to do something about it. So like I say, I was working at the Birmingham Rep, and when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, that was right outside. So Birmingham Rep is in the city centre. So I know you're from Manchester, but I don't know if you've been to
I have, yeah. I was there last weekend.
Amazing. So Birmingham Rep is literally city centre. So when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, they were all outside the Birmingham Rep. So then I was looking and thinking, I'm not just seeing Black people, I'm seeing, you know, there was what resonated with me was that I saw a 6-year-old white blonde girl with a pick-art saying Black Lives Matter, and I saw a, you know, 50-year-old Asian man with a pick-art that said Black Lives Matter. I saw white people, I saw, you know, Chinese people, and I just thought to myself, well, this is something I haven't seen before. I've seen people rallying together for other things, but I haven't seen it specifically about Black issues. So I said, well, so then in my mind, I'm thinking, well, how do we sustain this? Because you know, a protest is not sustainable. You know, protesting is not sustainable change. It's not going to change, you know, how we look at each other and in the long term. So I don't know what it was, but I was on the phone to my brother and I said, look, I'm seeing this and I just feel like I need to do something. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, all right, you know, I keep hearing about Black businesses, and when I think about the Black community, I do think about the businesses. I think about the rich culture, the food, the music, and the fact that we are by nature very entrepreneurial. So I thought, okay, that's the angle I'm going to go for. People were saying, why don't you go for the arts? But because I already do lots of work in the arts anyway, I just think it wouldn't have. I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to explore, do an experiment really, and explore why these things are happening, why we feel Black business owners aren't getting the support they need. So I put out a fundraising campaign, and I basically said, you know, I'm CJ, I'm a writer, not a business person. I just want to do something positive. I believe that if we all donate £2, you know, everyone at the protest, there's about 5,000 people there, we'd have £10,000, and I'm sure we could do something with that to support Black business owners. And literally within, you know, you had people that were saying, what's that? That doesn't even make sense. But then you also had people that were saying, that's amazing. That, you know, is amazing. Just to speak to me. And I didn't really know, I know more about business now, but at that time, I was just coming literally from fresh out the art sector, fresh from writing my plays in my bedroom, to now people wanting to speak to me about, well, what's your perspective on the financial issues that Black business owners are facing? And I was like, well, just give me a sec, because I need time to actually figure out what this project is actually doing. So I basically said, you know, I'm really interested to speak to regional leaders and business professionals who can help me understand and help the community understand what the issues are and how we can start to resolve some of them. So within a month, I had £6,000 raised. So it literally just caught on like wildfire. I didn't know really who was donating, where it was coming from. It wasn't really the people that I knew per se, because I think they were probably thinking, what is CJ doing? He's a rock. I don't know why he's trying to, you know, solve business issues. But for me, I was just really interested to have those conversations and meet people who I know have been fighting this fight for a long time, and realize and kind of think and have conversations with them about, well, why are things like this for the Black community? Why do we feel that we're not able to move forward? What is it that's happening? And I think, you know, I know a lot more about the issues now, but at the time that was literally what it was. And then, you know, I literally just reached out to regional professionals and just said, look, I'd love to have a virtual coffee with you, because that was what we had to do at the time. And, you know, I think a lot of them just liked the fact that I didn't really know what I was doing, and that I was just trying to do something positive. And I think through that, I was able to bring together some really amazing people who we then, you know, we built a charter and we said, look, these are the issues. We're not concerned necessarily about the business owners who are already, you know, heading in a certain direction. We really want to focus on those micro businesses and actually build a hub that, you know, if somebody needs some business support, that they think Black Pounds Project, let's see how they can help me. So we just wanted to be a hub, really, like a Google for Black owned businesses, to say, you know, I really need some support with my marketing or my support with my finance, you know, I'll go to them and they'll have people in their network that will be able to sit down and have a conversation with me, you know. So for me, then I really had to start to learn about how to sustain a business, because of course it's very charitable at this stage, but it is a CIC. So then the purpose of having the board was to really help me to figure out the direction and where we wanted to go and how we were going to sustain it, because the project in and of itself is very self-sustaining, because we have amazing people that will speak to business owners, because I've met them firsthand, and I know that they're just want to do something positive. And they're not all from the Black community, but they all just recognize that that Black micro businesses in particular need support in the areas that we've identified, and a lot of the reports have identified. So for us, it was just about, or for me really, it was about hitting the ground running, you know, enough talking, let's do something. You know, we all have the power to have a conversation with a business owner, you know, and let's help them figure out what they want and how they want to move forward, and then put the ball in their court and say, well, we have these resources available. This one might cost X, Y, and Z. This one might cost that, but it's here, and that's actually going to help you propel your business. And if they don't want to invest in their own business, then how can we, as a project, invest in them? You know, when we see business owners that are prepared to invest in themselves, that inspires us, because we know, okay, we've got a live one here. They're actually ready to take the next step. And so I forgot to mention, we launched a 9-month mentorship scheme. So that was the first thing we did. We launched a 9-month mentorship scheme. We did a 2-round interview for business owners. We've got some amazing businesses on board. We have a guy who runs a caravan bar. So basically he does like wedding events and stuff like that. But during the pandemic, he was really struggling to find clients and people. So what we did was we helped him find people who had lost their customers during that period. And he was then able to collaborate with them and create deals, you know, to really, you know, boost his brand. And then we have Dave Daniels. He does Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee. We've got Christiane. She has a bespoke clothing brand online, which is called Broken Beautiful, which is about finding the glamour in products that don't necessarily cost that much. And we also have people who, Aisha, who's doing face and beard cream. So it's a wide range of businesses that we had. And that was amazing because we have people who came on the project wanting to be mentors and coaches who have skills in those areas as well. So we wanted to make sure we brought businesses on that we could actually add value to what they're doing, not just create a mentorship scheme that is just giving you a random mentor that's not actually going to have any real affiliation or understanding of what your needs are. So yeah, and like I say, I can't take all the credit for that because the team is amazing, and they've all really believed in me, and I think they see this project being of real value to our community. And I think if we can just continue in the same vein and bring more mentors on board and bring more exposure to what we do, I think a lot of Black business owners will find value and be able to grow their businesses the same way that Black Pounds Project has grown. You know, if you have the right people in your network, then you'll be able to move your business forward. And you know, if you're going through something, you have someone to go to and speak about your issues. I don't know where that is otherwise. I don't, you know, I know there are places out there, but I don't know if they have the same level of vested interest at this stage in the community that we have. So yeah, so that's the project, and I'm excited about it. It is quite time consuming, but I think the more and more we get set up, to be fair, the project itself is not actually that time consuming. It's just a lot of bigger organizations and banks and financial services emailing me and wanting to meet with me, thinking that I have some sort of magic way of getting Black business owners through our door. But we're just there. I post a few videos on social media, I post on LinkedIn, and business owners just come to us. They just want us to help them, and that's it. There's no like magic secret. That's just what we've done. We're here for them, so they come.
It's amazing. It really is truly amazing what you've done in such a short space of time and the impact you've had already. I know you mentioned a few of the businesses there, but just tell us, I know you said you've got no magic potion, but you know, how have you found interacting with your community in and around Birmingham and the businesses? What's been the kind of reaction and the barriers for them to what have you found essentially from those interactions?
So there's business owners who want help but don't necessarily know that they need help.
Mm-hmm.
or they don't know how to ask for help, or they don't know what areas of their business they need help with. So it's really about going in, you know, I like Caribbean food, so I'll try different Caribbean restaurants, and I'll go in there and I'll say, oh, that was really good. And they'll say, oh, can you leave a review? And I'll say, you know what, better still, I will introduce you to the Black Pounds Project, and then you can get some more customers through that, because there's other people that will probably want to try what you're offering. But also we can support you through the project as well. So it's really just going around trying different businesses, and then in exchange for trying their business, I'm actually offering them, you know, something that can help them move their business forward as well if they're interested. So there's that. But so what have I found? I found that there are different degrees of being set up. So I think a lot of the issues, when I think about the growth hubs and a lot of the business support infrastructure that's out there, it's not set up for, they talk about micro businesses as someone who's turning over maybe 30, 40K. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with people who are probably not turning over. They're doing it as a side hustle that they probably want to turn into, you know, their main thing eventually, but might have struggle believing that that is actually possible. They don't understand maybe why they need a business bank account, or they feel that they don't want to register it because then they'll be paying tax on stuff. We're dealing with really that kind of micro mindset, and trying to help people to understand what the benefits are of actually doing things the right way, first of all, and also well, what we perceive to be the right way, which is getting registered, and so we can actually track your progress and help you move it forward. It's really hard to do that if you're not actually registered. It's looking at you know, I know on Instagram recently there's a lot of business owners who are setting up you know, a seafood boil like shops and things from their living rooms, and it's about saying, okay, great, you've got the ambition to do that, but what happens if somebody has your food and they have a reaction? So it's raising awareness of services that can help them, you know, to legalize what they're doing, and because that's about protecting the community as well, because people could go and buy that and not know what's in it, and so on and so forth. So really we're trying to just micromanage what's going on, because I know the pandemic has caused a lot of people to want to set up businesses, but I just feel that there has been a lack of due diligence really, and care for the community. So really we're just going around and we're making ourselves visible and aware, and raising awareness of ourselves within the community to say, look, we're here, you know, we're here to help. We're very transparent about what we can do and what we can't do. But if you do have any questions or any inquiries, you know, what we've found is a lot of Black business owners just want exposure. They want to be seen. But it's about, because you've got initiatives like Black Pound Day, and that's all about raising awareness of Black business owners and that giving them that exposure. But our thing is about, okay, you know, yes, there needs to be exposure, but there also needs to be professional services that people can rely on. And there also needs to be, business owners need to have access to support when they need it. And at the moment, you know, I've had meetings with growth hubs and things like that. And they do tell me, well, we do, you know, we're here, people don't come to us. And I said, yeah, because your entry criteria is too high. They're not going to, it's the terminology you're using, it's the forms that you're asking them to fill out. It's not, you know, we're here to kind of get business owners ready to start engaging with those kind of services, because at the moment there's no real purpose for a business owner that's setting up in their living room selling seafood boils to go to the growth hub and to ask for some finance. It just doesn't make any sense. There's too much of a gap. So for us, we're really trying to help business owners through our startup program to understand what the important things are that need to get done. And because a lot of people come to us and say, oh, Black Pounds Project, can you give us some finance or funding? You know, we have, of course, the money that was raised there, but we have to be very careful about how we're using that. And it's not just about giving it out willy-nilly. Yeah. There needs to be a purpose to why we're distributing the money. Really, it's only to help with those on our mentorship program that might need support with their marketing or whatever it is, so that they can then reinvest back into our ecosystem. But, you know, we're not here to kind of give out money per se, but we are here to give out a lot of value in terms of the information that we can provide. And that's not necessarily me, but, you know, we have banking lawyers, we have people who work in governance and finance and even mentorship. So we have a lot of value, and they have a lot of access within their networks. So yeah, that's I'd say our main purpose. It's similar to the signposting that goes on with others, but we're actually a bit more hands-on. Like, we will go to businesses on Instagram and say, you know, love what you're doing on your page. Do you need any support? You know, we kind of go to them, because I think sometimes Black business owners will be a little bit reluctant to reach out to something that they don't know. They want that personable approach. So I think if more businesses were prepared to do that, they'd see a lot more people coming through their doors.
Yeah. It's amazing, CJ, and it's wonderful to hear that you're taking such a hands-on approach, because I definitely, from my experience as well, I think that's absolutely what is needed. There are so many wonderful services and products that Black people offer, and it's just like you scream in frustration that the world doesn't know about them. So congratulations on everything that you're doing. Just to kind of to round up, I suppose, and then we'll ask people if they've got questions. But you've already said you've got so much going on, but what's next for you?
What's next for me? So for me, I think it's about kind of just helping myself to, well, raising my own profile, really. I think I want to create a YouTube channel where I can talk about, you know, playwriting and help people to, you know, how to write a play and things like that. So I just want to put more content out there, more, you know, because I get a lot of people message me about how do they, or can I read their stuff and things like that. And I don't always have time to do that, but yeah, I do want to kind of put more content out there that people can feed into if they want to, because, you know, my emails are, you know, I have a PA now, which is never something I thought I would ever it's, you know, my emails are just absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, my PA Denise, she's amazing at kind of either blocking people, or is it not softly blocking people?
You're a good gatekeeper.
Yeah, what do you actually want CJ to speak to you about? And, you know, really, yeah, that's it for me, really. And just continuing to, you know, man the project and bring amazing people into it, and collaborate with people like yourselves as well, and just keep visible.
Is there any plays on the horizon that we should be looking out for?
So there's a couple of things. I recently got onto BBC Writers' Room, so I'm focusing on.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm focusing on developing my screenwriting, TV writing through that. But I have a play that I'm writing, and there's another one which I'm shortly going to be commissioned to write, which will be probably very different to the type of work that I've put on, but I'll keep everyone, yeah.
Keep us posted. Keep us posted. Hopefully next time I come down to Birmingham, there's something I can come and watch.
Yeah, definitely. You weren't there for the last one, were you?
No, unfortunately not. No. I did try, because I saw on your social media, and I did try and get tickets, but they'd sold out. So I was like, oh, never mind.
There'll be a digital, there's going to be a digital version of it, so I'll make sure you get that as well. So
that'd be amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Right, guys, I'm going to open it up to see if anybody has any questions. Danny actually has already put something in the chat. So he's put his stepdaughter is quiet, thoughtful, and really clever. She'd never admit it and would run a mile before appearing on stage. However, tomorrow she has an interview for a screenwriting degree at university. Wow. What advice would you offer to get her through the interview? What a great question. Thank you, Danny.
So she's quite quiet, but she likes writing. Is that right? And she's doing a screenwriting. Yeah.
Yep. That's her. Yeah, she's very interested in doing stuff like behind, I suppose, what you call behind the camera or whatever. But she doesn't like people seeing her. She's far too modest. I mean, she'd be bloody anything. But what can you do?
Yeah. I think I presume what they'll ask her about. I don't know if she probably had to submit something to them. She probably no. Her portfolio's in her head. Yeah, so I think if it's a screenwriting interview, what they'll be looking for is if she can exhibit some kind of passion about what it is that she's doing. I think that runs for anything, any kind of interview that you have. But if there is a specific thing about screenwriting that she's interested in, just make sure she's really clear about why it is that she's passionate about that, and things that she's watched and seen, and what inspires her and what she wants to do moving forward with screenwriting. I think giving back is always a good thing to say. You know, I want to inspire others through what I do, and you know, we need more women. We need more women screenwriters, female screenwriters. So, you know, that's always a plus, especially a young female screenwriter. That's, you know, that's a given, really. So just make sure she's confident in why it is that she wants to do it and what she wants to get out of it. I think that's all that they'll really be looking for.
That's cool. Thanks very much. I was making a note.
No, thank you, Danny. Marilyn, you've got your hand up there.
Thanks very much, Tegan and CJ. Honestly, I concurred with so many of the things that you said, and you know, I had parents who didn't allow me to cross the road and actually expect people to come to me. But actually, I realised that was really important for my success, because actually it was teaching me boundaries. But one of the point I wanted to make was really this whole issue about Black people and not having enough faith in Black businesses and the perceptions that we're given. Because I had the pleasure of spending 3 years in Kenya. Kenya, and being in an all Black environment where I went from being a Black person here to just a person. I was just a person. And actually that difference had a profound impact on me. And I've got 3 sons, and I brought over my eldest son to Kenya as well, who's now a director at Barclays. But actually the difference it made on him as well. And what was really interesting was because everybody's Black and you can become president, you can be a director, there are loads of Black businesses. Those barriers do not, and when I'm talking about barriers, I'm talking about mental barriers about supporting Black businesses, setting up a business. People are very ambitious in terms of not doing small business, but really going the whole hog. And I think in many ways, for me, it explains why Africans are doing so well here, because they've come with that mindset, which is different if you've been born here. And I think that there is a lot of unconscious brainwashing in terms of how we see ourselves, how we perceive others who are just like us, and what we believe is the art of the possible. So actually, rather than aiming high, we are doing the art of the hustle, as opposed to, I work in my son's business, but we're aiming to be either the first or second Black unicorn. Somebody's told me that there is already a Black unicorn. And for those who don't know, unicorns are businesses turning over $1 billion. And so it's what can we do in order to be able to shift and that mindset, which I think is the biggest one that's holding us back.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think it was really key that you mentioned about, you know, sometimes it is important to make a distinction between African businesses and Caribbean businesses. You know, we think about the Windrush generation when Caribbean people came over to help rebuild Britain, and we think about the fact that I can only speak from my grandparents' experience. I don't believe their intention was necessarily to stay here. It was to get the money so they could go build a house back in Jamaica and, you know, tell all their friends how well they did in England. Whereas I think a lot of, you know, African people from Africa, they came over to, you know, build a better life here for themselves and their children, and kind of, you know, so that the entrepreneurial mindset is a little bit different, you know, when thinking about those from the African continent. So I think if we get more clarity on what the issues are that different communities are facing, because I think there are barriers for both in this country, and doing things like you mentioned, like seeing what other countries are doing, you know, how they're able to overcome what we would perceive to be barriers, and what is it? Are they just providing good services? I think the focus really for a lot of us should be on, am I doing my part? I think it's easy to say that there's a lot of barriers, but are we at least doing our part? If we know that, you know, we're dedicating time and you know, our website is set up properly, our social media is sorted, you know, we're reaching out for support in the right areas. Like if we're doing our part, which I believe what you mentioned in Kenya, that is what is happening. People are doing their part. They know what it is that they're trying to achieve and accomplish, and putting things in place to achieve them. I think if we know that we're doing our part and we're still not able to get certain things, I think then the conversation is slightly different. But so I think for me, and this project is about having conversations with business owners to make sure that we can at least say this business owner is doing their part and they're still being denied access to certain things, because then we know that we've verified that there is an issue. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to get, you know, 100, 200 businesses at that place where we can say, look, this is what they've done through, and we've made sure of it, and we can verify that this is what they've done, and they're still not able to access finance. So what are you going to do now to ensure that that is no longer that you're clarifying what it is that you want for them to be able to get to a certain place in their business? But no, I think, you know, those conversations are so key. And like I said, I don't have all the answers, but that's just something that I was thinking about in terms of the mindset from different cultures.
Answer your question, Marilyn. Thank you. Yeah. Jay has got a question. So, do you think the Netflix series Bridgerton helps Black writers or centralizes it?
Do you know what? I haven't watched it, so I can't say at this point. I can't say much on it at this point because I haven't actually seen it. So, what I do know of it, it hasn't really interested me, so that's probably why I haven't watched it. So, but yeah, if you get my email, I'll have a watch of it, and then I'll add some more.
Question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lisa, do you have a question? You joined us.
First, I just want to apologise for joining late. I've been on my MSc today, so I literally finished at about 2 minutes before I joined, so apologies. I don't have a question, but just following on from what Marilyn was saying about mindset, it's quite interesting for me because my mom is part of the Windrush generation. She came here from Barbados when she was 9 years old. And it's been really interesting for me and my sister because my mom thinks a lot. She doesn't do what Marilyn does, but she has a lot of the same kind of thought process as Marilyn in terms of when it comes to myself and my sister. Like, as far as she's concerned, there is nothing that we can't do. Yes, there will be challenges. In life, there are always challenges. But I always, and it's interesting because I go between Marilyn and my mom and they both kind of say the same things, but maybe in slightly different ways. And I find in terms of the mindset piece, mum's always been of the opinion that you can do anything. You know, yes, there will be challenges, especially as a Black woman, you will have challenges, that goes without saying, but she doesn't have that barrier, which I find quite interesting. She doesn't think, well, no, you can't do this, Lisa, or you can't do that, Louise. She has a very similar mindset to Marilyn insofar as you can do something, you just have to figure out the how.
Mm.
And I think that's definitely something that's influenced me massively, in comparison to some of my Black friends who they get very bogged down. It's like, oh, well, you know, we can't do this because of this. It's like, but have you really tried? Yes, like I said, there are challenges. Of course, there are challenges. But my thing is always, are they really trying? As Anna, to your point, CJ, are they really putting themselves out there and doing everything that they can? Because I find sometimes with my Black friends is that they'll complain a lot, but actually, what are you actually doing? Yes, there are issues. Yes, there are challenges, but you still have to do something in order to get somewhere. And I just always go back to my mum. Like I say, I always kind of go between my mum and Marilyn, but my mum is very much of that mindset of you can achieve things. You just need to firstly understand and accept that, yes, there will be challenges, but you just have to figure out the how. And it's just interesting that she has that mindset, but then there's other Black people I encounter who don't. So I think it's quite interesting. So that's all I was thinking.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Marilyn, sorry.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm a former BBC journalist, so kind of like questions is coming to my head. What I was really interested in is your strategy for growing your organisation and your business. And I really like the idea of you don't wait for them to come to you, you go out and meet people and meet them in a way, meet them on their territory, and then you can broker that conversation. And certainly what I'd like to do going forward from today is I think it's that knowledge and sharing network that we need to set up around the country about what works and what doesn't work in terms of engaging, because I think now is the time, and we don't want to go back to the way things were. We really need to use this opportunity to build forward stronger, and that knowledge sharing about what you found works and we can share with you as well, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, I see this as, I see Black Pounds Project, literally, I see it as a project. So, you know, there's no reason why there can't be a hub in Manchester where the information is there for people to say, look, tap into this if you need it. You know, I don't see it doesn't need to be this thing that stays stagnant. Like, I see it as something that is very malleable and can just be everywhere. You know, everything's digital now. So if people need some information, they should be able to go online and find it, you know, regardless of where people are based. So, you know, if people do want to carry that banner of, you know, Burn and Black Pounds Project and whatever it is, we should be flexible in doing that. You know, the silo approach is something that I just don't really understand. And I think we need to just collaborate and just let people know what's available to them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, CJ. And we're just about done with our hour. You have been wonderful, CJ. It's been great to hear of your passion and how things started for you and where they're going next. And I just want to say thank you again. I am sure we will speak again very soon, as we'll probably arrange something with Marilyn and Lisa and I for us to have a virtual coffee. But thank you everybody else for joining us. We will be back next week and we will forward on the details of who our guest speaker will be next week. Good luck, CJ, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye.